We're now on KOTOR Volume 4, Days of Hate, Knights of Suffering. This collects Knights of the Old Republic issues 19 through 24. And it's broken into two different stories. We'll start with Days of Hate. In this story, Azano is he's weaponized space slugs. You know, the thing in Empire Strikes Back that tries to eat the Millennium Falcon? Yeah, he's weaponized them. He's basically blackmailed Camper into creating a weaponized space slug that you can send through hyperspace to eat any planet you choose. And he's going to sell it to the highest bidder. So he invites the Republic, the Revenists, which is Revan's group, and the Mandalorians. Yes, Mandalore himself arrives, and it's like The Hobbit. And I think John Jax Miller thought of it as a joke, because everyone just shows up. It's General Karath, who brings Cartho Nassi and Zane, because Zane's their prisoner still. Then Alec shows up, aka Malak, Darth Malak, before he's Darth Malak. And Mandalore shows up. And of course, Roland and Jariel are there. And of course, Lucien shows up out of the blue because he knows something's up. And he's basically drugged and captured. And it's a 3-issue crazy arc of who's going to get this weapon. And it doesn't end the way you think it's going to end. I mean, it's clear that he's not going to succeed, but there's some interesting twists and turns in these first 3 issues. I really liked it. What I didn't like was the art. The art in this is all over the place. Sometimes it's decent, and other times it's heinous. It's not the worst art of the series. That's to come in the next review. But it's not good. Next we move on to Knights of Suffering. And in Knights of Suffering, we find out that Griff is leading a resistance. And Zane and crew go to Terrace. We're back at Terrace during the Mandalorian siege. They end up joining the Hidden Becks from the KOTOR game, which is nice to see. Hidden Becks. Even Mission shows up in this. Just a little kid in it. But it's nice to see her and her brother. It's fun. It's a fun story. We have one of the Jedi Masters, the Togruta one, shows up. The crazy one that won't sleep. She's trying to manipulate Zane's would-be girlfriend into murdering him. That's a subplot in this. And it's overall, the art's a lot better. It's a very sad story. It's got some great moments. The Mumos, the Ithorian bounty hunters are back, as well as Slisks. And we get probably one of my favorite character moments in the early issues of KOTOR. And that's... So for the longest time, we've had... Alec has had a thing for Jariel. Like, that's been very clear from Flashpoint on, that he's got a thing for her. And it is kind of one way. Jariel has a lot going on. We haven't heard her backstory, although it's beginning to unfold very slowly. That's the thing with KOTOR. KOTOR is first and foremost a character study of people running away from their pasts. That's sort of the overarching point of KOTOR. It's one of the things I really like about this series is everyone's running away from something. And as the story goes on, yes, we have Zane being framed for the murder of the other Padawans. That's sort of the plot A. But plot B kind of overshadows plot a good chunk of the time. Like, we got Camper's backstory in the last couple storylines, and why Camper was running away. We'll get Jariel's eventually, much later. We get Roland's. We get a lot of character stuff, and what works for me with KOTOR is the right mix of interpersonal drama and comedy, because there's some great moments in these two series. A lot of everyone kisses Zane, but it's not because they actually want to, which is kind of funny. Griff is just a con artist through and through, but he means well. Griff gets some good character development in Knights of Suffering that I really like, and made me really like the character at this point. I do need to address this because this is thankfully the last of these covers from what I remember. And you've seen the covers. I've been showing the covers throughout. These covers are hideous. I hate them. They're throwbacks to the original Marvel comics, but with really crappy art. Really crappy art. Although, I will say, only one artist has drawn Jariel poorly, and we haven't gotten to that person yet. We will. We will in the next review. We will talk about that. Because that is... The next one's got some of the worst art I've ever seen in a comic. It's bad. It's really bad. So, here's the deal and with the art. And I'm not going to show it necessarily on here, because you've gotten a general gist of what KOTOR should look like. Highly recommend you just check it out for yourself, but I give some of these artists crap. At least they're actually drawing, which is funny to say because the new Marvel comics really seem like it's either done by AI or someone's lightbox tracing. They're just photos from stills of the original trilogy just traced over, which to me is absolutely lazy. And I know some of the greatest comic book artists have done this, but for every panel looking like that, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. So at least this is someone actually trying to draw. And there are worse Star Wars art out there, don't get me wrong. Tales, for instance, was a prime example of people dumping garbage art into comics and then putting the Star Wars name on it. So, anyway, what would I give Days of Hate, Knights of Suffering? I have to dock it points for the art in Days of Hate. It's just so out of left field. We've seen bad art every once in a while up until this point in KOTOR. There's been filler artists having to come in, but it's kind of shockingly bad throughout that arc. So I'm going to give it a 4.7 out of 5. I'll dock it 0.3 per 3 points. But these two stories have very great character development, and you should definitely check them out. Now, next time we're going to do something weird. There is no KOTOR Volume 5. What there was Vector Volume 1. So join me next time as we review Vector Volume 1, but only Part 1, and I will explain why. Anyway, have a good one.